America's newest stock exchange, the long-term stock exchange, looks to shake things up in the market by making investors and managers focus on companies' long-term interest. Joining us right now is the founder and CEO of the long-term stock exchange, Eric Ries. Eric, good to have you on the program this morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So tell me how you changed the mentality from knee-jerk reaction, trading mentality, to long-term.
Well, it's a long-term project for sure, but we've had our first filing with the SEC showing the long-term standards, the principles of what we stand for, what we want companies to commit to in order to be on our exchange.
You've got news this morning, Eric?
Yes, we've just filed with the SEC the first step in our long-term standards, where we've laid out the principles that companies and investors need to commit to in order to be on the exchange.
Yeah, tell us about the exchange and why we need another stock exchange. You are dealing with unicorns and companies within California that are going public, and I know there's a lot of excitement there in Silicon Valley, but we've got an exchange in New York on Wall Street. We've got another one in Times Square called NASDAQ.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you know how we feel in California, that two can never be enough. And to be honest, there hasn't really been any innovation in listing standards in exchanges in decades now. There's been plenty of innovation on the trading side. So we'd like to bring a new option to the market that gives companies a different choice about how they want to run their company, not just quarter to quarter, but for decades and generations.
All right, so real quick, Eric, let me ask you about the growth story. Where does growth come from at the long-term stock exchange?
You know, it's actually very simple. Exchanges are complicated to build, but the business is very simple. We have to get companies and investors who believe in our principles to commit to our platform.
How do you do that?
Well, luckily, the next generation of founders and CEOs and investors has a different philosophy about business. Think about what building a 21st century company really means. You see the rise here in Silicon Valley of employee activism. You see founders who are trying to make sure that the products that they make are healthy for society, they are good for human beings, and that they have a positive impact not just in their community, but in the communities where they operate and around the world. So it's a more multi-stakeholder view, it's a longer-term view. And if you think about it, people are not born obsessed with quarterly metrics. There are a lot of operational mechanisms in companies that make sure that everybody's focused on the quarter. Well, we want to have mechanisms that have them focus on the non-financial metrics, considering them just as important.
So, Eric, how are you going to benefit the consumer, the investor, so to speak, your normal retail investor who wants to go out and buy and sell stocks? Is this going to be more transparency? Are you using maybe blockchain technology, other technologies that are going to make it easier for a consumer to be able to access your platform? Give me your thoughts on that.
You got the right idea. Even though IPOs are starting to return to a higher level, they're nothing close to like the 1980 to 2000 level, even before the dot-com boom. Small cap IPOs and IPOs in general used to be a lot more common, and growth used to happen in public. Today, the vast majority of returns to growth are delivered only to a very small segment of the population, so-called accredited investors. Wealthy people, people who already are wealthy, get most of the returns, but that's not been the historical pattern in the U.S. So our idea is that if we can make going public a more attractive experience for companies, that will allow the public to participate in growth once again.
All right, well, we got a big calendar coming up for the second quarter, Eric. We will be watching. Thanks so much. We will see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Eric Ries joining us there from the long-term stock exchange.